In 1992, a young woman named Helena Andersson vanished without a trace in Sweden. It was a quiet summer night, the kind where nothing unusual ever happens. She was last seen walking home, just minutes away from safety, but she never made it. There were no screams, no signs of struggle, no witnesses who could explain what happened. It was as if she simply disappeared into the darkness. When morning came, her family realized something was terribly wrong. A massive search began, but the deeper investigators looked, the stranger the case became. Clues appeared, only to lead nowhere. Decades have passed since that night, and despite countless theories and investigations, one question still remains. What really happened to Helena Andersson?
Helena Andersson was 22 years old, living in the quiet town of Mariestad, Sweden. She wasn't someone who stood out in a crowd, and maybe that's what made her so relatable. Helena lived a simple, structured life, surrounded by close friends and family. She had recently finished her studies and was beginning to build her future, like many young people her age. Those who knew her described her as kind, calm, and responsible. She wasn't reckless, nor the type to take unnecessary risks. Helena valued routine. She liked knowing where she was going, what she was doing, and who she would be with. In many ways, she represented normality. And that's exactly what made her disappearance so disturbing, because nothing about her life suggested something like this could ever happen. Friends often described Helena as someone you could trust completely. She was dependable, the kind of person who showed up when she said she would, who answered messages, who didn't simply vanish without explanation. She enjoyed spending time with people close to her, often choosing small gatherings over large, chaotic events. There was nothing mysterious or secretive about her life, no hidden conflicts, no known enemies, no signs that she was in danger. She had dreams, plans, and a future she was actively building. To everyone around her, Helena was exactly where she was supposed to be in life, which raises a chilling question. How does someone so grounded, so predictable, simply disappear without leaving behind even a single clear trace?
In the days before she vanished, nothing seemed out of place. There were no warnings, no strange behaviors, no signs that something was about to go terribly wrong. Helena followed her normal routine, spoke with the same people, and made plans just like she always did. If anything, her life appeared stable and uneventful. And that's what makes this case so unsettling. Because when someone disappears, investigators often look for clues in their past, conflicts, secrets, sudden changes. But in Helena's case, there was nothing. No obvious reason, no clear explanation, just a young woman living an ordinary life who suddenly and completely vanished. On the night of June 13, 1992, Helena Andersson went out with friends in Mariestad. It was a typical Saturday night in a small Swedish town. Quiet streets, familiar faces, and a sense of safety that people rarely questioned. Helena spent the evening socializing, moving between local spots, talking, laughing, and enjoying what seemed like an ordinary night. Nothing about her behavior stood out. She wasn't upset, distracted, or acting differently. To everyone around her, Helena was exactly as she always was. As the night went on and the early hours of June 14 approached, the group began to separate. One by one, people headed home. Helena stayed out a little longer, but not unusually so. At some point, she began her walk home alone, a route she knew well. It was a short distance, one she had likely taken many times before. The streets were calm, and nothing suggested danger. The last confirmed sightings of Helena place her walking along this route, heading toward home. Some witnesses later reported seeing a young woman matching her description in the area, but details were vague, uncertain. No one reported anything alarming at the time. No screams, no visible struggle, just a woman walking alone into the night. And then, nothing. Helena never arrived home. No one saw where she went. No one could say what happened next. It was as if, somewhere along that familiar path, she simply disappeared. As investigators later reconstructed the timeline, small and unsettling details began to emerge. Helena had been seen heading in the right direction, following her usual route. But something happened in the final stretch of that walk, somewhere between where she was last seen and where she should have been safe. The following morning, concern quickly turned into alarm. Helena hadn't contacted anyone. She hadn't returned home. For someone like her, that was completely out of character. Almost immediately, people began to realize that this was not a simple misunderstanding or a delayed return. Something was wrong. When police started to examine the area, they found subtle signs that raised more questions than answers. There were indications that something may have occurred along the roadside, something brief, something sudden. But there was no clear evidence of a prolonged struggle, no definitive scene that explained what had taken place, just fragments, hints, possibilities. One of the most disturbing aspects of that night is how ordinary everything seemed. There were no loud disturbances reported, no witnesses who could clearly describe an incident. If something did happen, it happened quickly and quietly, almost invisibly. That stretch of road, which should have been the safest part of her journey, became the center of a mystery that still hasn't been solved. Because whatever happened to Helena Andersson didn't leave behind the kind of evidence investigators rely on. It left behind silence. As the investigation moved forward, authorities focused on reconstructing Helena Andersson's final known movements. Witness accounts became crucial, even if many of them were uncertain or incomplete. Several people reported seeing a young woman, believed to be Helena, walking alone through Mariestad during the early hours of June 14th. She appeared calm, moving at a normal pace, following what seemed to be her usual route home. One of the most important sightings placed her near a road she would have needed to cross on her way back. This location quickly became a focal point for investigators. It was close enough to safety, yet far enough for something to go unnoticed in the quiet of the night. The area wasn't completely isolated, but at that hour it lacked movement. Few cars, few people, and long stretches of silence. Some witnesses later recalled seeing a car in the area around the same time. Details about the vehicle were vague. Its color, model, and even its exact position varied depending on the account. But the idea that a vehicle may have been present at the same moment Helena passed through that area raised serious concerns. Still, no one could confirm if it was connected to her disappearance. These fragments of testimony painted an incomplete picture. Helena was there. She was walking. And then, somewhere within that final stretch, something changed. Investigators began mapping out the exact path Helena likely took that night. Step by step, they retraced her movements, trying to identify where things stopped making sense. From the places she had visited earlier to the streets she walked, everything aligned, until it didn't. The final segment of her route became the most critical. It was a short distance, one that should have taken only minutes to complete, but it was also the point where all reliable sightings ended. Beyond that, there was nothing. No confirmed witnesses, no clear direction, just an abrupt break in the timeline. Some reports suggested that Helena may have been approached. Others hinted at the possibility that she entered a vehicle, willingly or not. But without solid evidence, these remained only theories. What made the situation even more unsettling was how quickly everything must have happened. There were no reports of a struggle, no noise that drew attention. If someone was involved, they acted with speed and precision. From that moment on, Helena Andersson was no longer just a missing person. She became the center of a mystery defined by uncertainty. Because the last known moments of her life didn't provide answers, they only deepened the questions.
When Helena Andersson failed to return home, concern quickly escalated into alarm. For someone known for her reliability, disappearing without contacting anyone was completely out of character. Family and friends didn't wait long before realizing that something was seriously wrong. Soon after, the police were notified, and what initially seemed like a missing persons case began to take on a much more serious tone. Authorities moved quickly. The area where Helena was last seen became the center of the investigation. Officers began canvassing the neighborhood, knocking on doors, speaking to residents, and asking if anyone had seen or heard anything unusual during the night. Every possible detail mattered, no matter how small or uncertain. Search efforts intensified. Volunteers joined police in combing nearby areas, including roads, fields, and wooded sections surrounding Mariestad. Dogs were brought in to track Helena's scent, hoping to identify the exact path she had taken or where it may have abruptly ended. For a moment, there was hope that something concrete would be found quickly, but that hope didn't last long. Despite the scale of the search, there were no clear signs pointing to what had happened. No personal belongings left behind, no obvious crime scene, no physical evidence that could explain her disappearance. It was as if Helena had simply vanished without leaving a trace. As the investigation progressed, the lack of evidence became the most troubling aspect of the case. Police had a timeline. They had possible sightings, and they had a general area where Helena was last seen, but beyond that, there was nothing solid to work with. Every lead seemed to end before it could truly begin. Investigators revisited witness statements, hoping to find inconsistencies or overlook details. They analyzed the reports of a possible vehicle in the area, trying to identify its owner or track its movements, but descriptions were too vague and no clear suspect emerged. Each potential clue only added more uncertainty. The absence of a clear crime scene made things even more difficult. Without physical evidence, no DNA, no signs of struggle, no definitive location, there was very little for forensic teams to analyze. The case relied heavily on fragments of information, on memories that could be flawed or incomplete. As days turned into weeks, frustration began to grow, not just among investigators, but within the entire community. People wanted answers. They wanted to know how something like this could happen in a place that felt so safe. But the deeper police looked, the more they were confronted with the same unsettling reality. There was almost nothing to find. And in an investigation, sometimes the most disturbing clue is the complete absence of any clue at all. As the investigation continued, small and unsettling details began to surface, fragments that didn't quite fit together but couldn't be ignored. Near the area where Helena Andersson was last believed to have been seen, investigators discovered subtle signs that suggested something may have happened. There were indications along the roadside that drew attention, but nothing clear enough to define exactly what had taken place. Some reports mentioned personal items, possibly connected to Helena, being found in the area, though details remained carefully handled by authorities. If these items were indeed hers, it raised disturbing questions. Why would they be there? Had something happened suddenly, or had they been moved? Witness statements also began to show inconsistencies. While several people believed they had seen Helena that night, their descriptions of timing and exact location didn't always align. Some accounts overlapped, while others seemed to contradict each other. It became difficult to determine which sightings were accurate and which might have been influenced by memory distortion over time.
Then there was the question of the vehicle. Multiple individuals recalled seeing a car in the vicinity, but no one could provide a consistent description. The color varied, the model changed depending on who was asked, and yet the repeated mention of a vehicle was enough to keep investigators focused on the possibility that someone else had been involved. Each of these elements felt important, but none of them were definitive. As more time passed, the case became increasingly defined by leads that went nowhere. Investigators pursued every possibility, tracking down tips, re-examining witness accounts, and following even the smallest details. But again and again, these efforts failed to produce concrete results. Some theories suggested that Helena may have encountered someone she knew. Others pointed toward a random encounter, something sudden and unexpected. There were even ideas that she may have entered a vehicle voluntarily, though no evidence confirmed this. Every theory seemed plausible at first, until it wasn't. What made the situation even more frustrating was how close investigators felt to something meaningful without ever reaching it. There were moments when a clue appeared promising, when a new piece of information seemed like it could finally unlock the mystery, but each time the trail faded. The inconsistencies only deepened the uncertainty. Timelines didn't fully match, witnesses weren't entirely sure of what they saw, and without physical evidence to anchor these accounts, everything remained uncertain. In the end, the case of Helena Andersson became filled with fragments, pieces of a puzzle that refused to come together. And perhaps the most unsettling part wasn't what investigators found, but how everything they found led them nowhere. Because sometimes, in cases like this, the mystery isn't hidden in what is known, but in what can never be proven. As the investigation into Helena Andersson's disappearance continued, attention naturally turned toward possible suspects. But unlike many cases, there was no clear individual who stood out, no obvious enemy, no known conflict, no one with a direct and undeniable connection to her disappearance. And that absence in itself became one of the most unsettling aspects of the case. Investigators considered the possibility that Helena may have encountered someone she knew that night. In small towns like Mariestad, people often recognize each other, even casually. This raised an important question. If Helena crossed paths with someone familiar, would she have felt safe enough to stop, to talk, or even to accept a ride? It's a scenario that can't be confirmed, but one that investigators could not ignore. Another line of thought focused on the idea of a random encounter, the possibility that someone unknown to Helena happened to be in the area at the exact same moment. Someone passing through, someone who saw an opportunity in a quiet, nearly empty street. This theory is difficult to prove, but it aligns with the lack of a clear connection between Helena and any specific individual. There were also discussions about the vehicle reported by witnesses. If the car was indeed present at the time Helena walked through that area, it may have played a role. But again, the lack of consistent descriptions made it impossible to identify or trace. The vehicle became a symbol of uncertainty, something potentially important, yet frustratingly out of reach. Each of these possibilities opened new questions, but none of them led to definitive answers. Over time, multiple theories emerged, each attempting to explain what might have happened during those final moments. Some suggested that Helena's disappearance was the result of a carefully planned act, something deliberate, carried out quickly and without leaving evidence. Others believed it was spontaneous, an unplanned event that escalated in seconds. There were also ideas that focused on timing. The narrow window between her last confirmed sighting and the moment she vanished suggests that whatever happened, it happened fast, almost too fast for anyone to notice. This has led some to believe that the person involved, if there was one, knew exactly what they were doing. At the same time, investigators had to remain cautious. Without solid evidence, no theory could be treated as fact. Every possibility had to be considered, but none could be confirmed. This created a delicate balance, exploring potential explanations without drawing conclusions that couldn't be supported. What makes this part of the case so compelling is not the presence of a clear suspect, but the absence of one. The mystery isn't centered around a single individual, but around a series of unanswered questions. Who was in that area that night? Why was there no clear trace? And how could something like this happen so quietly? In the end, the theories surrounding Helena Andersson's disappearance don't solve the mystery, they deepen it.
As weeks turned into months, the urgency that once surrounded Helena Andersson's disappearance slowly began to fade. The intense search efforts, the constant interviews, the steady flow of tips, all of it started to decline. Not because the case was any less important, but because there were no new leads to pursue. Investigators had followed every available path, revisited key locations, and re-examined witness statements. But each effort led back to the same place: uncertainty. Without new evidence, the investigation reached a difficult point. Resources had to be redirected, attention shifted to other active cases. Helena's disappearance, once at the center of local concern, gradually became one of many unsolved investigations. The case hadn't been closed, but it had grown quiet. For the community, the shift was unsettling. Mariestad was not a place where people expected something like this to happen. The idea that someone could disappear without explanation and that no answers could be found left a lasting sense of unease. Conversations became less frequent, but the memory of that night never fully disappeared. And for investigators, the frustration remained, because even as the case slowed, the unanswered questions stayed the same. What happened in those final moments? And why was there nothing to prove it?
For Helena's family, the passage of time did not bring closure. It only deepened the uncertainty. While the investigation slowed, their search for answers never truly stopped. Every day without new information was another reminder that they were left without an explanation, without a clear understanding of what had happened. Living without answers creates a different kind of weight. There is no resolution, no defined ending, only possibilities, each one as difficult as the next. The absence of evidence doesn't provide comfort. Instead, it leaves space for doubt, for questions that repeat over and over again. Over the years, Helena's case remained present, even if quietly. Occasional updates, renewed interest, or small developments would bring it back into focus. But none of these moments led to a breakthrough. The core mystery remained unchanged. And that is what defines a case gone cold. Not that it is forgotten, but that it continues to exist without progress. A story paused in time, waiting for something that may never come. For Helena Andersson's family, and for those who followed the case from the beginning, one truth remained constant. The search for answers was never truly over.
Years after Helena Andersson's disappearance, the case has never truly been forgotten. From time to time, investigators have revisited the evidence, hoping that new perspectives or advancements in technology could reveal something that was once missed. Developments in forensic science, especially in DNA analysis, have given hope in many cold cases around the world. And in Helena's case, there have been moments where it seemed like answers might finally be within reach. Authorities have reviewed old materials, re-examined collected evidence, and even encouraged the public to come forward with new information. Sometimes, renewed media attention has brought the case back into focus, generating new tips and theories. But despite these efforts, nothing definitive has emerged. The same questions remain, the same gaps in the timeline, the same lack of clear evidence. Technology may have evolved, but without new material to analyze, even the most advanced tools have limitations.
And that is what makes this case so enduring and so unsettling. Because even with decades of progress, even with renewed attempts to uncover the truth, the disappearance of Helena Andersson remains unsolved. A mystery that time has not been able to erase or explain.
More than 3 decades have passed since that night in 1992, and yet the disappearance of Helena Andersson remains a mystery. No definitive answers, no clear suspects, just a timeline that suddenly ends, and a silence that was never broken. Somewhere along that quiet road in Mariestad, something happened. Something fast. Something almost invisible. And whatever it was, it left behind no explanation. Cases like this don't just fade away. They stay in the minds of investigators, in the memories of those who followed the story, and most of all, in the questions that were never answered. What really happened to Helena Andersson that night in 1992? Did someone see something they never reported? Or is the truth hidden in a detail that was overlooked? And maybe